Good morning, everyone. I hope you all are doing well. With that, I'd like to call to order the April 23rd meeting of the Nsdp. You all would have received a copy of the minutes, and if you want to take 1 minute to review those, after which I'd like to entertain a motion to approve. Signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, the minutes have been approved. To the agenda, we will start first with the action items, and you can see on your screen will be there in just a second. They are there, and Alex, please proceed, sir.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Williams. So I've got my team members presenting action items through 4. So up first will be Lori Seeger with 4.01 award of general contract to Good Home Maintenance Incorporated, doing business as GHM Inc.
Brandy, I need you to stop sharing. $20,005, our security vest. We advertise through the dispatch as normal and through the district website. This is one of the first projects that went through as on public purchase, so the different way of receiving bids. Our initial advertised value was $259,600. This is our projected project schedule. The people building it, then bidders, but we did have one bidder there. We issued one addendum. Notice that we bumped the value of the estimate, and we also gave them links to be able to do virtual walkthroughs of Good Home Maintenance was the apparent low, and we reviewed with them. Our architect recommended them. This is the legislature out there LED paperwork, anticipating 20% participation. Terry has approved it. And does anybody have?
Because of the whole COVID-19 pandemic, we did ask the board to authorize us to, there is some uncertainty right now as to whether the Ohio Revised Code permits school districts to use it. It's kind of silent on the matter, but it does explicitly give that permission to the state organization, the OFCC. So we did ask the board for authorization to use public purchase so that we could continue bidding and not have to do that with.
Okay, any members of the committee have questions or comments regarding the project? Okay, hearing none.
I'm happy with that. 3 bids through the virus. So.
Those in favor? Aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Great. Lori?
Good morning, everybody. This is Columbus City Schools Project 19-0 Facilities Task Force 3, with improvements to not limits in HVAC. This is the 3rd package. The first 2 were the exterior masonry and roof and window repairs at Columbus North on Arcadia. And the second package was the HVAC and sort of interiors package of Columbus North on Arcadia. And so this package bundles together the other 2. These buildings did not require quite as much work as the first building does to get them into order. And Dominion in particular is significantly smaller than Brookhaven or Columbus North, being a middle school. So Dominion and Brookhaven were packaged as one package between the 2 of them. just an overview of Brookhaven itself. Brookhaven, that does include classrooms, the gymnasium, the auditorium, the cafeteria, administration areas. To facilitate that, to the primary gear to the building. Brookhaven has a masonry that is spalling, in particular at the corners. So there are masonry repairs and concrete repairs on the building, as well as window repairs and some the retrofit, auditorium lighting, stage curtains, secure vestibule entry, and some flooring repairs. And there are site improvements which are largely athletic nature. Tennis court, track, new stadium lighting, and some stadium. Project completion for academic year 2021-2022, so July 2021. Dominion is a smaller building significantly, has new HVAC throughout as well, and another electrical service upgrade. Repairs to the building envelope here are focused on the lintels, the window lintels, and some hardware repairs to the windows themselves. The learning environments, it gets a new vestibule entry, some flooring repairs, as well as some new staff restrooms. There are areas and wings of the building right now that don't have any staff restrooms, so it's quite a dash between classes to get from one end to the other for faculty. Here's a copy of the advertisement. This is a design, build, delivery model, similar to the other projects for the facilities task force. We set this out in December. December 10th was the informational meeting, and the goal of this being in December and then having requests for qualifications in January was we anticipated many of the same proposer teams that we had on the first two packages, and we wanted them to focus on completing their information for package 2 before they dedicated their attention towards this third package. The budget was initially in the $14.5 million range. You can see that it is heavily focused on we eventually broke that out as its own number and removed it from the published budget for the request for proposals. This is just the request for had a December 10th had a informational meeting, not heavily attended, but had a lot of the right people in the room. You can see there are representatives of almost all the architects and engineers who eventually ended up turning in requests for proposals. So it attracted a very specific group of people, but a good group of people who's done a lot of work. So on the statement of the short list, identical to the request for qualifications, this is a case where we're not at all concerned about that. All three of these companies have done work recently for Columbus City Schools that are in alignment with what we expected. In this case, Miles McClellan has co-opted Train as their design assist partner. So you have Train and Miles, the Brewer Garrett Company, and Johnson Controls. Letters to the shortlisted firms, again, identical to the firms who turned in proposals instructions. And at this time, we dropped the estimated cost to 10.4 to 10.9. We put our thumb downward significantly on this number over that initial number. Part of that was to try to keep the proposers sharp and not tell them. Within this, you can see the schedule. Qualifications were due on the 6th. There was an informational meeting and a site visit on the. They gave them until March 25th to complete their proposals. We held interviews virtually on April the 3rd, and we came to a consensus. We did issue one addendum. That was to refine. One of the challenges of design build is it's a very fast delivery model, and it didn't allow us to have all the meetings we needed to have with all the stakeholders. So in particular, many of the priorities related to adult education, we made some assumptions. Those assumptions needed to be dialed back. Same thing with what our assumptions were for the athletics, and we needed to fine tune that as well. So we and Train, they are the successful proposal, and I'll get to that in just a second. Here are the qualification score, the price ranking score, and how that comes together as a combined best value calculation. Qualification score, you'll see it was incredibly tight between Johnson Controls, who is less than They're 0.7 of a point behind Miles McClellan in the qualification score. So they both ranked incredibly well on that, with Brewer Garrett being a little bit off the mark on this one. That dealt with their approach to HVAC, and we really felt that the other two brought not just their A game, but their A+ game. It's not really a knock on the third one. It's still a pretty good score for them. And roles really fell off the mark on this one, which put Miles McClellan in that sweet spot where they've edged out the Brewer Garrett company by 1 point. Here are the GMP numbers at 17.8. That's represents a full 42% over the lowest value, while Miles McClellan's about 11%. We did engage in negotiations with Miles McClellan being the best value calculation, the apparent low or the apparent high on that, and we negotiated their number down so that it is 3% above the lowest GMP, which makes us much more comfortable. What I want to emphasize on that is we were able to negotiate with them on items that did not affect the HVAC throughout, did not affect the quality of the work or the primary objectives of the project. So Schooley Caldwell, of whom I'm a member, issues the recommendation as the architect. They are an LEDE firm, so LEDE participation is, for purposes of the contract, 100%. It's still an open book pricing, and they'll still be receiving some bids. So we don't know all of their subcontractors yet, and can't say that all of their subcontractors are also LEDE. I think that would be a bridge too far for us to assume. And they have a good track record of from their GMP working downwards and working to find that bid value savings. And then finally, the LEDE form is signed by Terry Wise. Are there any questions?
Okay.
Second.
Okay. Got a motion and a second. The motion has been approved and the project has been approved.
Curtis, I need to abstain. Jeff Mormon needs to abstain.
Yes, Jeff. You have abstained, you say?
Correct.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, Alex.
All right, now Brandy is going to share her screen again, and we will go on to 4.03. And I will start with an apology. This is an item that we did not review at technical oversight last week, but that I am asking to bring forward to the Nsdp agenda because it's pretty time sensitive. So this is a little unusual in terms of it being a fairly hefty change order, but I'll explain to you the why behind it. So this is our project 19014, which is the current contract we have in place for the design build renovations of the North High School facility. So at the outset of this project, we had established some pretty well-defined criteria. And one of the things we did not contemplate at that time was any significant improvements to the I should think about not to the cafeteria, but to the kitchen, the actual. Earlier this year, our food director asked if we could sit down and talk about the conditions of the kitchen at facility, and thinking about the long-term investment that we are making in this building, with the pretty significant investment we're making on overall infrastructure, whether it would make sense at this time for us to consider, most of you have not had a reason to be in the kitchen of that building, even if you've been in the rest of it, but the kitchen is in fairly poor condition. We're not entirely sure when the last time it was renovated, but by appearances, it would appear to be the 1950s or 60s. Just about all of the equipment, with a few exceptions, is well beyond useful life. The kitchen is also not very ergonomic. It leads to a lot of movement. It's a very large kitchen, as opposed to many of our newer buildings that are very compact. This kitchen's very spread out. It doesn't help that it's in the basement level of the building, so it's also fairly difficult to even get deliveries into and out of. So we sat down and started talking about if we could tackle making an actual kitchen renovation. And we initially started talking about running it as its own separate contract. But for a couple of reasons, the assurances from contractors they can actually complete work. But frankly, the other issue is just general coordination. So I don't know if any of you have been involved in kitchen design, but it's fairly complex work. It's expensive work just in terms of the cost of the equipment, but the equipment all has very specific needs in terms of gas connections, power connections, sometimes drain connections. There are also a lot of issues revolving around ahead and move forward with a renovation of the kitchen. We engaged our design builder, which is the Brewer Garrett Company, and have been working with them for the past about the past month to, number one, gauge their interest, which of course you can see from this, they are interested in moving forward with the work. They're also committing that if we approve this work to move forward, they can have the kitchen operational and ready for the start of school in the fall, which would be for our August, at least at this point, we're planning for an August 2020 start to the school year. This change order does not have the full detail you would normally see because the GMP is really reserved for the, but this would essentially be a GMP in addition to the, so at the not to exceed price of $875,000, we would have a fully renovated kitchen at the north facility. This would include all new serving lines, all new kitchen equipment, a new walk-in freezer, a new walk-in cooler, a new dry food storage, and then of course all of the design work, all of the and again, I just want to emphasize that part of the reason why we really feel the best option for this work is to roll it into the bigger contract is because if we don't do this work at this point, some aspects of the work would almost be impractical to do at a later point in time. And one good example is the exhaust hood for the kitchen equipment. So there is currently an exhaust hood that is probably 5 to 6 times larger than we need for the actual cooking equipment. We do far less cooking on site than we did in the past. We do a lot of reheating of food that's prepared, pre-prepared food. To be able to make that upgrade to the kitchen hood, because the kitchen is in the basement level, we need to essentially fish new ductwork up 3 stories through the building and up to the roof. And I'm not sure that we'd be able to accomplish that work at any other point in time other than right now when we've got the building pretty opened up to make all the other improvements. For the contractor, and then this is the legislation. So again, it is a $875,000 not to exceed contract for the North High School renovation project. And here is the public content that we put into the legislation that basically incorporates what I've just told you. And then I would just ask if there are any questions, comments that you have on this particular change order request. So one more fine detail I should bring up. So this is a change that would be largely funded by our food service program. So this $875,000 change order openings that we need to cut into existing walls to let the new serving lines function well. We are covering new flooring for this space. We will cover some aspects of the ventilation and the changes we'll need to make to the ventilation system to incorporate this change. But the other $775,000 will be covered by our food service operation fund.
Any questions or comments from the committee? And all the work that was focused on North High School and all the things that you all have been looking at, and I know for a fact that you guys do.
So that is a great question. What I can say is so I wish we had more funding to do more of this work. I think in general, the funding that we requested from the board is probably at about 30 to 40 cents on the dollar, what we would spend to do a full renovation. So there are a lot of things that just simply did not make the priority list of things that we would have entertained. The other 2 sites are in adequate condition. I think the real focus for this building is that, so we have made a higher level of investment at this building. To be quite frank, many of our other buildings, the investments we're making are fairly short term. to continue to make renovations. This is a building that, because of its historic nature, we know is not going anywhere. We're making a enormous investment in things like the replacement windows that are going in. So thinking both about the current condition of this kitchen, but also knowing that this building is going to have a long life. It is just kind of the right time to make that investment at this building. I wish we had had that discussion earlier and included it originally, but I still believe that it is a good investment for us to make at this time.
Okay, I appreciate your comments. Any other comments from the board, from the committee?
I just have a question. What's the current use of North High School?
So the building is vacant right now. It was the home for our international 712 program for the previous, I can't remember the exact number.
In the school day and the plans down the road? Because like I just remembered as having like night classes and things like that in there.
Absolutely. So, and when this building reopens next year, it will be a middle school. It will be a traditional grades 6 through 8 middle school, and they will actually, so our elementaries serve prepackaged food that's produced at our central food service operation downtown. Our middle schools and high schools all prepare all of their food on site.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there other comments or questions? I'd like to entertain a motion to approve.
I move approval of the change order
Okay.
for North High School.
Second.
Okay, great. Thank you all. It's been approved. 19-022-14. My apologies. Okay, great. Alex, I understand we're moving to discussion items now.
Yes. So I'm going to ask Brandy to, I take that back. So I've got this one. Never mind. So one thing I would do, particularly since we are broadcasting, and we may perhaps have a new audience today that we are not typically reaching using Facebook Live and of Nsdp or the Neighborhood School Development Partnership is, and how it came into existence and kind of what its role is. So the Neighborhood School Development over the years, but it's a neighborhood-based committee of, they're all volunteers, they're all experts in fields that in some way touch or represent facilities and capital improvements and planning in general. And so this committee's charge is to review the decisions, the planning, and then certainly the contracts that we bring before the Board of Education related to anything that's capital facilities related. Originally, like I said, the charge was looking at our new construction program, but with our new Operation Fix-It initiative, the scope has been brought in to look at our capital renewal plan, which right now we have called Operation Fix-It. So I hope that gives a nice, just kind of general overview for the viewing public of what the purpose and charge of this board subcommittee is. So just in terms of our presentation items today, so one thing I did just want to show you are our current bid results over the past 2 months, because I don't think this is going to come as any surprise to anybody, but obviously we've seen a challenging market over the past several years. There are certainly a few more opportunities and challenges that have been presented to us with the COVID-19 situation right now, but our bid results through the months of February and March point with measuring the market and making sure we have limits for our work out there to allow those projects to get awarded. But as we've continued with bidding, as we've entered this state of emergency and the COVID pandemic, we are seeing the market fluctuate pretty wildly. So you'll see that we had a bid that was unsuccessful on April 3rd. We then had another one that was unsuccessful on April 15th, but then we also had one on April 17th that was successful. And then on 4/9, we also had a bid that came in under its estimate. So we've seen the market all over the place. We've also seen bidder response all over the place. So you'll see these last couple bids that we've opened since April, our number of bidders has dropped pretty consistently, but then this most recent bid we did on April 17th, we saw 4 bidders again. So what you see upcoming for us are 2 projects that we've put out back for bids. So you'll see that we have on actually coming in tomorrow. So my apologies, those 2 dates should say 4/24 for security A and B, and then on May 15th, another security A and B. What you're seeing there are the projects that bid on April 3rd and then April 15th, where we did not have successful bids. So we've done a couple things to try to get more contractor participation. We have, number one, broken those larger projects. So you'll see those original estimates listed under the consultant estimates. We increased our estimates. We've had to go back. We've done debriefs with the contractors who both did and did not provide bids to try to better understand what challenges they're facing and to try to find out how to make this work more attractive. We've also, so we've heard some feedback that there is that we're seeing because so many of our supply chains are from other states. Particularly some public owners at this point has been suspended for. We're optimistic that we may get some bidders who we've not seen bid recently. Kind of wanted to highlight for you how our bid results have looked here this spring, late winter and into spring, and make sure you're aware that we do have up.
Thanks, Alex. Does anyone have any questions or comments relative to what Alex just noted?
Security, and I was wondering if that's because of either specified equipment or items that's going in, or if you got deep working with the criteria architect on trying to identify potentially will continue to be a challenge for a little while, but wondering if it's more the type of work that being the security packages. So
No, it's architects. I don't think it's specification driven, but we have been meeting as a group to make sure that we compare notes to try to apply the best practices that we can out of each. My best guess right now is that, so obviously we've been in a tight labor market for a while. I don't think that's going to get any better for the foreseeable future. For very small projects, these are pretty, they end up being multi-trade projects. So there's a lot of general trades work, but there's also electrical work. There's technology work. Some of them have mechanical work. So there's a lot of subcontracted work that goes into these projects. And I believe that contractors are having a hard time getting all aspects of the scope covered. And because we need all of that scope to have a complete project, so we could look at essentially multi-priming the projects, but at the size these are, I don't think it makes sense for us to be trying to manage multiple prime contracts and accomplish this work. So
yeah. Maybe our estimates are just low.
Certainly for today's market, yes. So right now we're comfortable we can cover these budgets with our contingency. So we're going to do our absolute best to get all 22 of these projects under contract for this summer.
Okay. Thanks, Alex.
As part of the meeting invitation, but I did just make you aware of some of the other challenges that we've been encountering. So we received notification through the Ohio Facilities Construction Commission about guidance they were prepared to send out to all of their contracted firms. So we kind of took their lead and we worked with our own outside counsel as well as some other district experts to put together our own guidance document. And I'm not going to read the whole document for you, but you do have it if you'd like to see it. But I did just want to highlight some of the things that we have instructed our teams to do to make sure that they are working in the most safe manner that they can. Because I guess the most important thing to point out first is that in the state of Ohio, the governor has declared construction to be an essential function because of the critical nature of the infrastructure work. So our construction teams are still working. In fact, we have construction teams that are working now who we didn't expect to be working because we should be in school. But knowing that we will not have physical school, we'll have all online learning for the duration of the year, we are certainly taking the opportunity to get as much work done as quickly as we can in our school buildings to help ensure that we've got projects finished and ready to go for the start of next school year. So for contractors to be able to work in our facilities, we've directed them that they need to designate a workplace coordinator to implement this, what we're calling our enhanced safety protocol. They need to be working in compliance with both CDC, the Centers for Disease Control, and OSHA guidelines. And so both of those entities have published additional requirements to manage through this COVID-19 pandemic. We've also instructed them that they need to implement a protocol for testing employees. We don't necessarily tell them exactly how they need to do that, but we do certainly tell them that they should be following best practice, which includes taking the temperatures of employees as they arrive on site, as well as any other asking them questions about their current health of their employees that they think is warranted to ensure that they're able to work safely. They obviously need to comply with social distancing requirements, and the state has done a good job of providing guidance on how that should work. And again, if you look at the document that I sent, you'll see there is our document, and then it's followed by guidelines that we've just included that came from the state. And then there's additional cleaning and hygiene procedures. And these are probably largely things that you would assume people would already be doing, but some of them are ones that even I didn't think about. So things like ensuring that if in certain times to make sure they're not cross-contaminating. So ask them to implement, and then again, using that to provide documentation to us that they are in fact get any additional guidance from the we update this document and that completes my presentation for today.
All right, thanks, Alex. Any comments to Alex's comments? Okay, great. Thank you for covering all those items, Alex. Looking at the agenda, we don't have any additional reports at this time. Does Jen from President Jen? She asked me not to call her President Adair, so I'm going to have to call her President Jen. I've got to give her respect for her position.
Well, good morning, Chair.
Good morning.
I don't have any comments. I just want to thank all of you for being here. Your work is so important. I want to thank Alex and his team for continuing this work. I think it is a good opportunity to try to get more things done while our kiddos are out of the buildings. But I do hear you. It's super challenging now because now we're running into the employment and supply chain issues. So just thank you guys. Your work is really important. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Mel. Certainly appreciate your comments. And we understand the challenges that you all are going through. And we appreciate the hard work that you all are doing. Anyone from the administration? I'm not sure if we have Dr. Dixon on the line. Is there any comments, Stan or Maurice? Okay, great. With that, I am going to entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting. And before I do so, I wish you all safety, be healthy and be wise. It's a very challenging time for everyone. And I'm glad to see that you guys are healthy and still participating. We certainly need you to stay that way. Thank you much. Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
And all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you much. Appreciate you guys. Be safe.
Take care.
Uh-huh.